I was listening to a preacher talk about violence between men and women. He made some interesting points and said that men should love women and cherish them, okay? He mentioned biblical verses like, husband, love your wives as Christ loved the church. I also agree that women were not put on this earth to be a man's punching bag or simply to serve as a man's sexual pleasure, okay? Men should value women and treat them as our partners in life, okay? However, I could not agree with everything this preacher was saying. He said a number of things that I do not feel are actually biblical or in some cases made any sense at all, okay? While saying men should not abuse women, he flat out said that men should accept physical abuse from a woman and not respond at all. Okay. And that the only response a man should give is to walk away or get marriage counseling. So basically, a woman can assault a man anytime she feels like it, okay, receive little to no punishment for doing so, okay. This preacher quoted many biblical verses about how a man should treat a woman, okay. But what about how a woman should treat a man? Okay. The Bible teaches that women, specifically wives in the context of marriage, should treat men with respect, support, and devotion. Okay. Being a helper and companion, being submissive to his leadership. Okay. It says older women should teach younger women to love their husbands. Please tell me where in the Bible does it say that women should beat their men like pigs? Okay. Please tell me what passage in the Bible supports this type of behavior. Okay. And I noticed this preacher talked a lot about how men should treat women, but he sure didn't talk a lot about how women should treat men. He didn't care anything about that. Okay. The preacher went on to say that men should accept this abuse because men are supposed to be tough, and this is part of his standard for men. Now, this is an interesting statement he made, okay? And this is something that a number of modern day feminist preachers have an issue with. They teach their standards rather than God's standards. Okay. There's nothing in the Bible or that culture that I'm aware of that accepts the physical abuse of men by women. Okay. This man was talking about his standards. But if you're a preacher, you're supposed to be teaching God's standards, not your own standards. Or your standards need to be in line with God's standards. Okay. What's most disturbing is that these feminist male preachers teach a lack of accountability for women that the Bible does not seem to support, at least not in my opinion. Yes, men oftentimes had more accountability than women, but I do not see that the Bible absolved women from accountability. Okay. When God punished the Jews, the women were punished right along with the men. In the Exodus, the women were oftentimes punished right along with the men. Okay. In the Garden of Eden, Eve was punished as well as Adam. Okay. Jezebel was thrown from a balcony and eaten by dogs. Okay. When God punished the Israelites, the Canaanites, the Philistines, the Amorites, and others, the women usually were not excluded from that punishment. In fact, I do not see the justification in the Bible that women have zero accountability. Okay. All throughout the Bible, women got punished right along with the guys. Okay. This is one of the things that turns off young men when they go to church. Okay. They see a preacher who worships women rather than Christ. Yes, you worship anyone who you feel should have zero accountability. Okay. I did not have an issue with this preacher saying men should not hit women because no one should be hitting anyone. Okay. At no point did this preacher show any real concern for men being assaulted, only for the abuse of women. Okay. Perhaps I've been reading a different Bible all these years because I do not see that abuse of men or any part of humanity being supported by God. Okay. I would have been fine with the preacher saying contact law enforcement and have these women arrested instead of you physically responding to their violence and beating them up or something like that. Yeah, I could have got it going on with that. Okay. But let's be real. Okay. These modern day feminist Christian preachers do not even support that action. Okay. This guy, he'd be perfectly fine with your woman doing a flying kick in your face or doing a roundhouse kick and knocking your teeth out And he would probably get upset if you call the police, okay? They want men to be a pinata, basically, okay? There's nothing more emasculating for a man to be beaten by a woman. I'm just tell you this. I don't care who don't like it. It's the truth, okay? And this type of nonsense is what some of these Christian preachers think will draw young men to their churches, okay? If you really want to emasculate a man, let him get beat up by a woman. That may not be PC. That may not be, progressive or what people want to hear in this modern day society. But a man getting physically abused by a woman is very emasculating for him. Okay. Okay. You know, this preacher and some of his subscribers made light of men in domestic violence situations. You do have men who have lost their lives by the hands of their girlfriends or wives. Okay. Domestic abuse is not a laughing matter, no matter what sex the victim is. Okay. While I'm not advocating men attacking women, okay, we need to understand that we do not live in a perfect world. Okay. There are consequences for our actions in this world. Okay. Not every person is going to react logically to being physically assaulted. Okay. Not every person is going to use a reasonable amount of force or engage in de-escalation methods to diffuse a situation after you have attacked them. Okay. Um, I don't care male or female. We need to start teaching people to keep their hands to themselves. You know, if you can't handle a situation or you're just upset or angry, we need to start teaching people to deal with their emotions rather than, hey, I'm going to go punch somebody in the face or kick you or whatever. And if a person is not threatening you or attacking you, you have no business putting your hands on them. Okay. So what we need to be doing is, whether male or female, is teaching people to deal with their emotions better and not engage in violence. Okay. This slogan, a man should never hit a woman. A man should never hit a woman is not a magic shield that is going to protect a woman from retaliation for assaulting a man. Okay. There are consequences for actions. And we need to start teaching people this rather than reciting a feminist mantra after engaging in ungodly behavior. Um, this idea that you want to put out there that, hey, well, a man should never hit a woman no matter what. That's not reality, dude. Okay. People are not always going to be logical or rational. Like I said, not always going to sit up there and deal with things in a reasonable manner. We need to teach women, do not put your hands on a man. Okay. Do not punch these dudes. Do not kick them. Don't pick up no weapon if they're not attacking you. That's a different story. If a dude is assaulting a woman or attacking her, she has every right to defend herself. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about situations where a woman attacked a dude when there was no real logical reason to do so. Okay. And like I said, this preacher was like, he was just telling people, oh, so what if a woman hits you? What are you going to do? You're going to hit her back? Okay. I don't advocate that. But in reality, that's a very real possibility. Okay. There are consequences for actions, man. People need to stop thinking that every person they see on a bus, on a train, walking down the street, in the store, the movie theater, or at work is some logical, rational, reasonable person. You don't know how many murderers, rapists, child molesters, serial killers, mafia hitmen, just vile, just disgusting, demon infested people that you walk by every day. Okay. You probably, man, have been sitting on a bus right next to some dude who just got done murdering somebody. Okay. You in a restaurant, you in the line behind some dude who just, he got, 4 or 5 dead people in his basement. You don't know. Okay. How many people walk past Jeffrey Dahmer and didn't think this dude was anything abnormal? Okay. I mean, this guy he had killed dudes, had their heads in his refrigerator. He had like dudes' bodies dissolving in his bathtub. How many people was in a restaurant next to this dude or in the bar talking to this dude, drinking a beer and didn't know who he was? So my point is, again, I'm not advocating any type of violence against women. I don't like dudes hitting women. I'm just saying you don't know who you're dealing with out here. Even if that person is a relative or a friend, those people can have hidden things going on in their life. When you go up there, man, and you put your hands on people, you don't know how those people are going to respond. Like I said, there are consequences for actions. Those people may beat you to death. They may kill you. And some preacher sitting up here talking about, I don't believe a man should a woman. What does that mean? That don't mean anything, man. Keep your hands to yourself, male or female. Okay. But like I said, biblically, there's nothing in the Bible that supports a woman beating a dog mess out of a man, okay? Or that men should accept physical abuse from a woman. Um, you are well within your rights to have that woman arrested if that's what you want to do. No, I do not believe that men should accept physical abuse from women or anybody, okay? Like I said, you don't have to knock the woman out. There's nothing wrong with you restraining that woman, and there's nothing wrong with you having her arrested. But yeah, I don't agree with what that preacher was saying. And I think this is a turnoff to young men. And the funny thing is, it's actually a turnoff to women. In his comment section, what this preacher seemed to very much ignore, because he was arguing with dudes, there was a lot of women in his comment section who told him that they didn't agree with that and that that was not biblical. Okay. No one should be hitting anyone. No one should be attacking anyone. You as a preacher is saying that it's okay for a man to abuse a woman or for a woman to abuse a man. Neither one of those things are a godly mindset, in my opinion. Okay. I mean, that's just my thoughts, but I don't think the Bible supports that.